Good evening. This is Tuesday, October 10th, 2023, meeting of the Town of Berlin Planning Board. As a preliminary matter, please note this meeting is being recorded and some of the attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks will be able to see you. The Grateful Dead tie-dye t-shirt you decided to wear tonight, or anything you will intend to or not screen share on your computer system. Anything that you broadcast will be captured and recorded forever and ever, and will possibly wind up as a TikTok video to be shared amongst your neighbors and friends. This is Tom Sanford, Chair of the Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members of the Planning Board are present and can hear me prior to me calling the meeting to order. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jay Teach.
Here.
Timothy Wheeler.
Here.
Carolyn McDonald.
Here.
Thomas Andrew.
Here.
With a quorum of the board present, I call this meeting to order at 7:33 p.m. Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. This is an open meeting of the planning board being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Specific information and general guidelines for the remote participation of members of the public can be found on the Town of Berlin website. The governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly, physically accessible location and allows and encourages us to participate remotely. For this meeting, the planning board is convening using the Zoom platform as posted on the agenda, which includes links for the public to join this meeting. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they've concluded their remarks, I will invite each board member by name to provide any comments, questions, penetrating insights, and/or motions. Please hold all your insights till your name is called. Board members and speakers on the agenda, please remember to mute your telephone or computer when you're not speaking. Speak clearly to ensure accurate minutes are recorded. For any response, please wait till you yield the floor and state your name before speaking. If a board member wishes to engage in conversation with another board member, please do so through me to avoid multiple conversations happening at the same time. Lastly, please note that each vote in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Thank you all for your understanding and cooperation. So, do we have a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting?
So move.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask you to vote. Jay Teach.
Aye.
Carolyn McDonald.
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler.
Aye.
Thomas Andrew.
I'll abstain because I wasn't there.
Excellent. And Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries in the affirmative. Thank you. There is a bill for housing production, the final bill that was sent around, right? Everybody see it? No?
No.
Mr. Tim sent it around, emailed it around. I got a copy of it. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me, so I don't know what the total was. It was like 4,000 something. Tim, do you have the?
Let me look it up.
Tim, did you use my old email again?
God, no. Oh, who did it come from? Kristen, I guess. I move that we pay Central Mass Regional Planning Commission $4,881.42 for the Berlin to the housing production plan. And that says it's 100% complete. So that will be the final payment. And this would be paid from mitigation funds that are in the housing partnerships account.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to pay Central Mass for the final bill for the housing production plan, the funds to be expended from the mitigation funds from the housing partnership account. Any discussion? Questions?
Or 88142, right?
4881 and 42 cents. Yes.
Anything further?
Invoice number 5411.
Got it.
Anything further? Seeing none, I will ask you to vote. Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
Thomas Andrew,
Aye.
Jay Teach,
Aye.
and Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimous. Tim, do you have a warrant for that? You're muted.
I can get one.
Okay. And
Yeah,
then,
you can print it off the treasurer's website.
And there is,
I'll fill one out.
and then we just need to sign up have some signatures, right?
Yeah, I'll track people down.
Okay, perfect. Appreciate it. Thank you. There was a email about the map has been updated. Do we need to take any
Right.
action on that?
Right. Matt finished it up. He added the pieces that we added to ARC. And made sure that the two new roads, Gibbs and Pollard, are on. And he cleaned up the River Bridge overlay because that didn't show up. And also included, I don't know, as in the past, the overlay for the Highland Ridge was on that past zoning map. So that one's there too. He had some questions. Let me pull that up.
While you do that, so I noticed that there's two green categories. One is ARC, and then one is agricultural conservation restriction, I think was the other one. And there's a heck of a lot more properties in town that have CRs on them than are reflected on that map.
Yeah, I don't remember him including the CR designated property independently in the past. And I wondered if we wanted to identify that. I mean, ARC is the zoning category. The notion that it's got a CR on it isn't a zoning issue. It's a independent action, right?
I agree. Especially there's a lot of there are some properties that are privately owned that have CRs, some are owned by the town that have CRs. I mean, it's not a cut and dry
Right.
category.
So I'd ask him to remove the CR designation, right?
I think so.
He said, I updated the map so that the sliver, he had a little piece in the Ball Hill section between the original Tyler piece and the newer Pierce piece that wasn't showing up as green. So we changed that. Do you mind looking at the map? I also removed the existing signatures from the signature box. He's going to create 4 full-size maps for us. And then in addition, an electronic version that we can download that Eloise could then utilize in the, for her zoning map for the
Printed
zoning
bylaws.
bylaws.
Yeah.
But, so we could take one of those and sign it if we wanted to. because he doesn't have everybody's signature, because we weren't all on that old one. So he would remove everybody's existing signature, and then they leave them blank, and then we'd fill it out after.
Is it possible to DocuSign a PDF electronic copy?
If you want a digital version to have signatures, do they need to be updated, or can I use the same ones? If they need to be updated, do you want to have everyone sign a paper and then you can send me a scan of it? I think last time they signed a printed copy and then an image of that was sent to me. You could also download a PDF, sign that electronically, and send me a copy. So yeah, we could do that.
I just think Eloise needs signatures on it before it's official.
Right.
And, there's no sense of having him send a paper copy, us signing it, sending it back to him, and just delays everything.
So if someone wants to coordinate that electronic part rather than me, if you wanted to get it done right. Carolyn's good at that.
The only thing is if we sign it all, in order to get it electronically again, we need to scan it, and somebody needs a big format scanner. I have a big format scanner at work, so I don't have scanning it. Just we need all the signatures.
So how do we? He's saying, what is he saying?
Right, but if we each scan our signature
And send it to him?
and send it to him on a white background, or send it all to you or to Jay or to one person, and then that one person sends all of them, or even to me.
I mean, maybe the thing is just this, well, you could also download the PDF, sign that electronically, and send me a copy.
Do you
Oh.
guys have electronic signatures in Acrobat and Adobe?
Yeah, just do fill and sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we could just round robin that, so all of our signatures were on one.
Right.
Yeah, we could do that. Right, that's the thing. Then you got an easy way to get an electronic copy that can also be printed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think the free Adobe fill and sign does actual signatures.
Yes.
really? Mhm.
Yeah, it does.
So how does
If you already have it on file.
You may have to feed it a JPEG or something.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to sign a blank piece of paper and scan it and send it to me, and then I'll send them all to him?
Well,
Sure.
if you have a scanner, if you sign a blank piece of paper and scan it, you should be able to put it into Adobe as your signature.
Yeah. You just copy it as an image and paste it in.
Yeah.
But he'll do that pasting.
Well, we might as well get this figured out since we can use it in the future.
All right, if you can explain it to me, I'll do it. I mean, I'll do what I need to do to send it to whoever's gonna.
Do you have a scanner?
Yeah, I can scan.
So sign the blank piece of paper and scan it and send it to me.
Okay.
But you're also, what you're gonna do is go into, I haven't done it, I did so long ago, I don't remember, but you go into Acrobat and figure out how to get that in as your signature. So
No,
so
that's right.
after that, it's very easy to sign things.
Yeah, you and I are in the same boat. I have it, and it was so long ago I put it in, I couldn't remember what the process was. You're right.
Yeah,
But you can do that and just fill and sign.
that's
Yeah.
I'll help you out with it, Tim.
All right.
Start by just signing your signature. I mean, scanning your signature. We'll start at the start of that. That's the first.
Okay, I'll do
Step.
that.
You want a PDF of our signature, Jay, or do you want it? Is that what you want from us?
We can paste them all onto the drawing. Well, send them to me, and then if I can't paste them on the drawing, then
Okay.
we'll
Right, don't send it as a PDF, send it as like a JPEG.
JPEG, yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Probably have all your signatures from things you signed previously anyways.
right?
Okay. So we all set with that?
Good.
Alrighty, is Wayne Texter in the audience?
Yes.
It is.
Perfect.
Good evening, Wayne.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. No idea how to show my camera, which I usually do, but
Oh,
was-
I just
audio's
allowed you
fine.
to, yeah, I
Audio-
allowed you to talk. I didn't fully
That-
promote you.
You don't need to, that's fine.
Okay. You have a very nice picture of you on your,
Oh, well, geez. It's probably better than the real thing. It's more curated. Yeah. So sorry that I'm back in front of you guys again with this drawing, but it's basically exactly the same as what you signed off on before, but my great attorney paid attention and realized that they had swapped two of the numbers, which made it look like that the acre that I'm taking off of my parents' property and attaching to mine was going the opposite way, coming off mine and going on theirs. So so what you have in front of you that they submitted from David E. Ross is just the corrected version with just the reference so that it can be filed properly in the registry of deeds. So there's no problems down the road. So it's basically, there's no difference. It's basically taking whatever the square footage is, about an acre or an acre, I guess, off of the 195, 193 lot, and it would be attached to my 201 Gates Pond Road lot.
I sent you guys the drawing a few minutes ago, or we can
I haven't seen it.
Get it.
When did you send it?
Before the meeting started.
like, just.
I can also put it on my screen if you want.
Can you share it, please?
Yes. Just find it. Oh, no, we're just in the minutes.
Oh, actually, the one that I have is not this. Oh. That's what you sent me, but that's not this
Oh, that's the wrong one.
property. Yeah.
That's not me.
That's exactly what I was looking at in my email. I'm like, hey, where's Wayne's house?
Yeah. Right. Oh, I gotta go find it.
Do you want to stop sharing your screen while you look through your computer?
Well, I'm looking at another screen though. You can't see anything else, can you? Well, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
Yeah, just
Where is it?
giving you a heads up, that's all.
Yeah, thank you. Huh. When did you send it to me, Wayne?
I didn't. He said he sent it. Or provided it.
Oh, it was Eloise sent it.
Yeah, I guess he dropped it off to Eloise. Oh, that isn't a bad picture, Carolyn.
right?
Long time ago, much younger.
Where was that?
It's in Hallstatt, Austria.
Oh, very nice.
Very pretty place.
Yeah. Looks it from the little bit I can see.
Yeah.
Oh, it says here was dropped off and I left it in the planning board mailbox.
Oh,
I scanned it.
And I don't believe he did not send me a revised version of it.
all right. Well, Jay, I'm gonna stop your screen sharing.
Yeah, we may have to.
So it's
rely on a
the
description or
same
something.
plan we signed before with just the reverse motion of the
The
land.
the notation of
rather
the,
than them. So I'll
Right.
move that we approve a plan dated X drawn by Y and submitted on behalf of Wayne, similar to the plan we signed before with the adjustment that's been made. And we'll fill in the blanks in Jay's minutes when we look at the plan. How's that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's actually labeled draft 9/21/23 right now.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a very sketchy motion and a similarly sketchy second with a lot of to be determined infills. Is there anybody that has any questions or wants to discuss this further?
We'll just make sure. We'll hold them up side by side.
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
make sure.
Okay,
yeah, I mean, I know it's basically two notations. That's it's going from one to the other.
well,
Sorry.
that's
If you could
okay.
Ask ask the
it-
engineer to send us an electronic update, though.
I can do that. If it wasn't submitted, I'll ask him.
Yeah,
As soon
'cause
as I'm off
we-
this, I will have it sent to me and I will forward it over to you.
Yeah.
I'll forward it to Jay.
Great, thanks.
Thank
Awesome.
you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
Thomas Andrew,
Aye.
Jay Teach,
I,
and Tom Sanford, aye. Motion carries unanimous to approve the A and R.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night,
right.
Wayne.
Carolyn,
Right.
if you can just update me once it's all squared away, that'd be great. or
I will.
whoever. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I have a question. We aren't required to approve rooftop solar, right? That's just Richard?
Yeah, rooftop now.
Yeah, okay. And I got something addressed to town of Berlin. I
All
guess
of
that's
us.
P now. I've been meaning to drop it off when I can catch him. I don't know if you guys know he's sticking around. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything else that we want to take up before, we have a few minutes before our next person on the agenda?
I met with Kyle, I forget her last name, who want to talk about signs because they got a group working on the school sign. So we together met with Kirsten and Chris of the select board and
Kristen and Chris.
Kristen. I always mess that up, yeah. So I'd really like to have her and some of her co-members, whatever, join one of our meetings so that we get input from them on our LED sign bylaw.
Okay.
And maybe
Yeah.
next meeting, which is my birthday, the 24th.
Woohoo!
Yay.
We also should get input from highway and police. At least I don't think fire would have an interest.
I spent a while talking to Fred about it. But yeah, I guess we should before we change the zoning. That's right. I was thinking they would get involved later when we were trying to do the details and implement it, but why not get their input while we're doing the bylaw? That's a good idea.
Yep.
I'll try to contact them.
I've heard that
please-
there are already opinions about the blinky sign, so we should get them
Sounds
involved
great.
sooner. Yep.
Can you
Oh.
set that up for the next meeting, Jay?
Yeah, I will. Yep.
Cool. Anything else we want to take care of? Any other housekeeping stuff we can fit in?
Yeah, I just got an email today. Let's see here. Hi, my name is Fabricio Felipe, and I'm a realtor with One Way Realty. Does that mean it's only one way? My client, who is a landscape hardscape supplier, is looking to buy 256 Central Street. Where's that?
Is that Mo's?
I
Or
think so.
Nature's Best, or I think so.
That's Mo's, okay. Again, he is not a contractor nor a landscaper. He is a supplier. He is renting now and looking to buy this property and move his business to that location. Please let us know if that would be acceptable.
That's
Doesn't work.
interesting.
He can only sell fruits and vegetables, right?
As part of the CR, but it's AR underneath and there's a CR on it and you can't, we went through this with another person that was trying to put a one of those yards or retail / whatever, and it wasn't zoned for it, and it was similar zoning. Actually, I think it was even worse. I think it was village overlay, wasn't it? Where they wanted to put that.
I remember that we had the current owners wanted to put an office building and a Starbucks on it. Remember that? I remember that.
And a Burger King. Don't
on-
forget
on
the
that
Burger King.
particular property,
Right.
but we had another landscaper that wanted to do some retail and selling showroom.
Oh, that was down at Spooky World.
There was one at Spooky World, and then there was one down on Pleasant, and with one where there was, the guy had he had some pipe or he did something in there. He had some business that he ran out of the back of the house, and he was trying to sell the property. Somebody wanted to do that.
Huh.
But
Remember that?
that was a while ago. That was probably 10 years ago.
Okay, so I'm gonna respond to this guy, say, no, but he's
Zoning
really,
doesn't
he should be
allow.
talking to Richard, right?
Right,
Yeah.
just tell them it's not zoned for it.
Yeah. But I think if he has questions, Richard's the zoning enforcement officer, right? So he's the guy probably who should be
Yep.
answering questions formally, I think. Unless the guy wants us to rezone, then he comes to us.
Well, it's still got a CR on it, so he's gonna have a real hard time.
Right, there's a
Oh, but-
portion of the property that can't be touched.
Yeah, but there's a reasonable amount of space that's not in the CR, right? Like where the existing business is.
Yeah, but not,
Um,
not where the greenhouses are, but where the existing house and barn are, yeah.
Right.
Right.
The
But it's
existing,
still
gr-
under an AR, right? That's
Still an AR, that's the problem. It's still an AR, yeah.
So doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, the zoning is a problem. I thought you were just asking where the CR was. Yep.
right, Thomas, I know the greenhouses are on the CR. Is the metal building that they have next to it, is that also in the CR?
Pretty much.
I would really have to look. It's been, literally
Right.
decades.
Same. Well, not decades, but
For me, it's been decades since I
Yeah.
looked at it. But I certainly know the greenhouse is. I think that whole sort of extended building, other than the house and the barn, are in the CR. But I'd have to look. You have to look at the
Right.
Mr. Cotting's plan and sort of lay it over the
Yeah.
the plot of the particular property.
Yep. So glad they do meets and bounds now.
Mm,
Yeah.
Makes it so much easier.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, are we set with that, Jay?
We're set with that.
All righty, thank you. So our next guest is Mark Rhodes and the discussion of low-cost single-family homes. Or a continuation of our discussion of low-cost single-family homes. Is
Did you
Mark?
guys all read all that stuff I sent you?
I did, actually.
Oh, good.
I
thought it was
read
very informative.
almost all of it.
It's very interesting, very dense.
Yeah.
Can't believe the rents are getting for them.
Right? Can't believe the rents they're getting for anything, though.
Well, the rents they're getting, I mean, it's in a different part of the country, so it makes there can't compare, but I mean, it seems like they're roughly comparable to what the Riverbridge apartments are going for, and those are not, there's no space between them at all, right?
Right.
There's Mark. But I thought Mark could help us understand, and we're looking for ways to produce lower cost, presumably single family housing. And this is an interesting concept that Mark can tell us a lot about, specifically the gravel pit and water and sewer and all the other things that go with it that cost money.
Okay, Mark, you have the stage. How are you?
All right. I am fantastic. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
All right. The Worcester Sand and Gravel is the property I'm working on currently at the moment. You guys all know the zone. You all know the history as far as the 55 and over that didn't go forward last year, or no, 2 years ago. But obviously, it would be nice to have a use for that brings in some revenue and helps the town as well. Nobody wants the large houses no more. No, the apartments have been fulfilled. The affordable entity's been fulfilled, and I'm hearing that there's some interest in workforce housing, which when asked what workforce housing is, and that would be housing that is at the entry level rate in town or the surrounding towns, because every time there's a 50-year-old ranch that goes for sale in our town or one of the surrounding towns, there's a bidding war on it, and it's something that needs work, heating system, roof, siding, so forth and so on. And so the workforce housing concept would be, I viewed a little bit of the horizontal apartments and the tiny homes and all of the other things, but we already have enough apartments. We don't need apartments. They're already too much money to begin with, and they're not an investment for the person who comes to work or needs workforce housing. So the gravel pit over there is friendly for development as far as gravel. It's sand. The septics are cost effective. Water, that's whether you go public water supply or individual wells, that's a whole different story. But also, it's a large piece of land. The landowners are looking to get a decent amount of money for it. And there were 66 units proposed. I proposed something less than that, quite a bit less than that. But I guess in this discussion, I'm going to throw a few things out there and then ask the board, one, for what they would like to see in a project of this nature, and then two, if I was to check off all the boxes, if they would support a zoning change for a workforce housing overlay, a new zone, whether it was smaller lots or whether it was condoized, whether it goes under the condo state statute or whether it's small lots that would be to be determined at the time, because it's my first meeting with you guys to discuss this concept. But I would figure they would be 1,000 square foot homes, somewhere in the vicinity of entry level in Berlin, honestly, is high. It's probably 550 grand, but these things take a year and a half to get approved. So we have inflation to deal with as well, but that's beside the point. But the other thing is, these new homes would be up to current standards. So now it costs you $500 a year to heat the thing instead of $2 or $3 grand, like an old home that somebody buys that's, like I said, just blowing oil out the windows. So it would be comprised of a series of ranches and capes, depending on what works the best. The ranches would be everything I'm proposing. I would propose 2-bedroom structures. Again, they're starter homes, 6 rooms, so they'd have to be deed restricted to only 4 occupants. And because they're starter homes, they're meant for people who are going to stay and work in town and young families from town in the surrounding area. But when they get their career established and they make more money, then they sell that home, and it's an investment. It's not an apartment, it's an investment that they made money on, and they can flip it for a higher value at that time, which is the new cost of living or the new standard or the new entry level. And they can buy a bigger place for themselves if they're a family. And then that opens up a new spot for the next person who wants to move into it, as opposed to something where people are just going to move into and stay there. And then that defeats the purpose, because once that subdivision is done, there's no more workforce housing. It's not renewable. So I guess what I would ask the board at this point is to, if they would even consider this proposal, for starters, or am I wasting my time? And 2, if they could provide me with the necessary information so I could do some conceptual plans to come back to you and visit with some renderings that would make sense.
Can you talk for a minute though, Mark, before we get to that, about, we've had this goal of making low-cost housing available. Can you talk to us about why would these houses be less expensive? What is it about this concept, this horizontal multifamily concept, that makes these houses cheaper and therefore able to be sold at a lower price?
All right, that's a piece of cake. The 40B has been exhausted, you know that. I'm building houses and selling houses in Berlin at 2,000 square feet for $800,000. And those houses 4 years ago sold for $400,000. So if you go to a conventional lot, which now there are none in town, which as far as the threat of additional housing with Berlin being at 17%, I'm going to get off subject for 1 second. Berlin being at 17%, you'd have to have 500 homes plus that to drop to below your 10%. I did a survey on it years ago, but anyway, so the thing is, if you put a house on a conventional lot, there are none, and the cost of the infrastructure for a subdivision is so exhausting with the inflation. I've looked at 3 different projects in 3 different towns: Leominster, Marlborough, and Ashby, and the cost of the water, sewer, pavement, curbing, and some of those towns, they have sidewalks and road trees and fire hydrants, so on and so on, goes all the way up to $3,000 a foot. So your house lots with no engineering, no interest, and no money for the developer or the landowner. On the most expensive one in Marlborough was $300,000 a lot. So that's prohibitive. But those towns are T-towns. So they're exposed that they have to develop all this land for high-rise structures and housing of this nature that they're already forced to do by law. So that's beside the point, other than Ashby. But Ashby, the water run was, the run of water was 1,800 feet, and then 1,800 feet into the property. So that was cost prohibitive because the land and the houses don't sell for enough in Ashby. So the inflation has driven the cost of building up so high. I'm making the same money that I was 4 years ago. The realtors are making double because they're getting the percentage of double the cost. And the banks are making more than that because instead of paying 3%, I'm paying 11%. So the inflation is the huge key. And then the land cost is the killer because lots in Berlin are selling for $300,000. So how can you buy a $300,000 lot, do $100,000 worth of site work at a minimum, because it's between 100 and 150,000 on site work, and then build a house? It can't happen. So that's why you only see large homes on lots in town. So if you want entry-level homes, you have to create a zone that makes that accommodating. And if you were to overlay this on where I live now on Amos Wheeler Road, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it on Randall Road. You couldn't do it on Lion Road. You couldn't do it on any road. This is really the only piece of property and the only opportunity that you could gain this type of housing.
And that's because of the condition of the site. It's not going to require as much site work.
Correct. It's priced accordingly per acre as any place else in town, but the land is friendly, and the conservation areas you use, you protect those, and you use those for your well radiuses, so they stay protected forever. So you could do a surrounded area. You could cluster and have, excuse me, my dog's bugging me, get out of here. You could preserve the impact on the abutters, and River Road's a perfect location as far as everybody considers River Road practically outside of town, but it's already an improved route. And basically the amount of impact that you get over a project this size is not that substantial.
So,
Mark, you mentioned what you told me about the water supply, taking advantage of the
the
so
water
down there, there's
supply.
wells.
Yeah, when I talked to Jay earlier about where the town can get River Bridges water for $1, or get that piece of land for $1, that may or may not work, because I'd have to do a study on it and do some cost analysis. But my original thought was to stay away from a public water supply, but I met with my engineer today, and it doesn't look like it would be feasible to stay away from a public water supply. But public water supplies are very expensive. That one's already established, so that saves some money. It just depends on what cost is associated with getting that, as far as me as a developer. So that would weigh in, because getting the testing done and getting the approval for myself, because I do a lot of stuff myself, that's not the substantial part. It's the pump house and it's the distribution, because you have to run it basically like town water, which the pipe for town water in most of the towns is $100 a foot. And that's for the steel. This is last year's price. And plastic, just because there's a shortage, they still get $100 a foot because they can. So these developers take whatever they can get, whatever the towns will allow them to use. In this particular case, the main probably wouldn't have to be sized that same size, and it could be some give and take. And the distribution is easier because of the fact that you're not dealing with a bunch of ledge. But my only hesitation for that is I just haven't done it. So after the meeting I had with my engineer today, and we ran a few numbers, but they were a little bit blind. I'm not sure about the water supply. Because if you go condos, if you go into the condo statute, you kind of have to go public water supply. But you could go with multiple wells too. If you go with small lots, You can go with individual wells on the outskirts. I know you don't like South Street, but similar to South Street. And the advantage to that is you incur your costs as you develop. So if things slow down and the world goes crazy like it is, then you incur those costs as they happen. If it gets to the point where the interest rates are so high that people can't even afford the workforce housing, then if the project slows down a little, you don't have all that money into it to begin with. So it helps the longevity of the project.
So we're part of
As well as
we're part of a multi-town effort with Central Mass to create language for an overlay for workforce housing, which Emily's working on. And I would think we'd probably draw her back into the conversation fairly soon. And it would be interesting to have Mark participate in that conversation, because she's looking at what other towns are trying to do at the same time to come up with a hybrid zoning overlay that we might use. Mark, what's your sense about what's the minimum number of units you think you could work with and still move forward?
I did the numbers today on 44 2-bedroom units, and the numbers look like that could work. As a developer, I sign a P&S on a house on day one, and I'm forced with the escalation until it finishes. So that is a horrible thing to live with on a very short-term basis. So I know I don't need 66 units. But the target, I guess, would be 44 is feasible. Something would have to give, something would have to give, like if the public water supply came from the town, that might work. That might help to reduce number of units. There's in the interest rate, there's a lot of variables, but that I guess that would be where I'm at the moment. But that would only be, I had it laid out, and it only encompasses, I laid out a public water supply on the property today, which took up about half of the property. They've sold the back half. The back half is under agreement from, like, say, the top of the hill to Summer Road. So that's out of the picture. So then you have a balance of about 29 acres, give or take. And the public water supply on the property takes up about half of that. And then you cluster the balance to the other half with some surrounding buffer. And you could fit that project into that. If the public water supply was over on Senny's property, you could cluster it even further towards the center and do some things to promote the site to a higher standard as far as refilling to get rid of the hazards in the back, refilling to get some of the topography into a better nature. And then at a later date, as the plan would approve, because these are just small houses, they're no garages, but if you could work with some of the elevation and the fact that there's no groundwater with some importation, you could lay out some contour to the site to make it so you could add garage unders or prep them so somebody could add a garage under at a lower price in the future. That's kind of the vision I have going.
How much frontage is there, Mark?
There's enough frontage for 5 house lots and 2 road inlets. There's enough frontage to get a loop road.
So what would happen if
by current zone?
What would happen if you did end up going ahead with let's say 4 market rate units using some of that frontage and then created this overlay in the back with the workforce housing. Does that help?
That drastically helps.
I mean,
But in order to do that, I'd have to have the water from the Sennies project, because once you do the 4 market rate,
right,
that gets you some startup money and helps take care of the landowner enough that they would be patient enough to wait through this process. And then you could take the time to fine tune this whole thing.
okay,
And at that point, I would say more than likely, you could reduce the number of units if that was what you chose. But if this is a thing that you really want, then I don't see that as a goal, because it's not, you want to reduce certain types of growth, but this is the type of growth you want to encourage. So I'm just putting it out there.
right. Do you know anything about the purchase of that back parcel? Who's looking at that?
Some gentleman bought it for his son, who is a landscaper. They haven't closed on it yet, but I guess they've given Kevin till, I haven't been involved with any of it. It's just secondhand from the realtor. I believe they gave Kevin, he has to be out sometime in December. And he's been cleaning up the place, getting rid of his logs and moving his stuff. And he's gonna rent someplace in Clinton. And there's a kid who's got a couple of trucks or something, I don't know.
So,
But
yeah, because Kevin was on the Worcester Sand parcel, and
correct.
I guess part of the lot he's on is limited business and the other part is residential. There's 250 feet back from Summer Road is residential, but then
The house itself and the balance of the property is unlimited business.
yeah, right. Okay. Huh, that's interesting to know. Thanks.
I have a couple
Yeah.
questions. So other than water and, the 80,000 square foot lot size, what would you need in the overlay that's outside of regular zoning to make this happen?
It depends on, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can go by the condos, like similar to the condo statute, and allow multiple units on a single parcel. And then you go by the condo statute and you do it like condos are 55 and over, but you only allow that for this particular use. Or you go to a smaller lot size where you satisfy your nitrogen levels for your septic, and you put your wells on the outskirts. And we end up with, we need 20,000 square foot lots to support 2 bedrooms. So you need 20,000 square foot lots designed with the open space around as part of the approval. And you do individual septics and individual wells, or you do or you do the condo statute, similar to the condo statute, as an overlay for a workforce housing zone, which has certain criteria that it has to meet, and you either have individual systems or shared systems, but if they're individual, they're still considered shared. They're just, all the numbers add up together. And then you have, at that point, then you have a public water supply. Once you go to the condo-ized, you're gonna be public water supply one way or the other, whether there's multiple wells or 2 single wells. So it's kind of it's up in the air right now as far as how that shakes out. It's kind of either way, the concept is the same. It's either done with deeded property for single lots and resales, or it's done with multiple easements for the roadways, the driveways, the well lines have to be continuous to a parcel, which has to be a minimum of 20 by 20. So it can be done either way. One has a whole bunch of lines on the plan, and one is one big property. So the overlay would be to allow such project, and the details of how it allows it would be whether it was as essentially condoized homes with use easements, or single family deeded homes, deed restricted to 2 bedrooms with you'd overlay the road easement over the well areas and such like that.
And
But
would
Go
a
ahead.
shared septic make it easier? Shared septic and individual wells?
shared septic and individual wells would make it easier to pallet. It would make it easier to absorb during bad times. It'd make it easier to get off the ground. It'd make it easier to get financed, and it would make it easier for people to feel like they own a home on their own piece of land, as opposed to a condo unit that they're sharing with everybody. And the only fees they would have would be for the maintenance of the road, as opposed to a condo fee that covers everything.
And maintenance of the septic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd have their own, if they have their own septic and have their own well, they would be all Title
If we were doing
V.
a shared septic, if we're talking the shared septic concept.
Oh, a shared septic, yeah, shared septic is just, you'll get into pressure dosing, they'll drive the cost up, and there's no reason. You got gravel in your
Okay.
front yard. Why pump it, 2,000 feet that way or 2,000 feet that way?
So that wouldn't really reduce the cost. A shared septic area wouldn't,
No, a
Reduce
shared
the
septic would
cost.
drive the cost up.
right?
The shared septic, because of the fact that you have all the gravel, it makes it so a shared septic goes up. If you have an area with bad perks and you have good perks in this one spot, then it makes your system go down. Because say you got 30-minute perks here and you got 2-minute perks there, your system that's shared in the good spot goes down.
Okay. I
Yeah.
know I personally would lean towards the individual septic and well and deeded properties. Because I think you're right. I think it makes it
Mhm.
feel more like
Yeah,
you own a home, not you're part of a condo association.
correct. And it's cleaner. And if you get a few bad apples that start dragging people down, unfortunately, they get foreclosed on and their houses get sold. They don't pull down the whole association.
So what keeps this from looking like Timmy Road in Hudson, or any of those other ones that were Andy Lane special, slab on grade, 1,000 square foot, build them so they last 10 years, and then 15 years from now, we got all kinds of property down there that are falling apart and people don't want to live there, and it becomes a problem.
The Mass State Building Code and my reputation. Andy Lane went out of business. How many times? I've never been out of business. I sold 2 of my homes. I lost $1.4 million. Sold 2 of my homes to recover, kept everything, never went bankrupt, and finished everything I ever set out to do. And built in town for my entire life and finished every project I ever started.
Not worried about finishing them. I'm worried about the 15 years out where they're, falling apart.
They're not gonna fall apart unless they're built so tight they bolt from the inside out, and that's Mass Code.
I think we want to really understand what it is about any of these concepts that makes them meet our goals of kind of affordable by definition as opposed to by subsidy, right? And you actually build, this concept that we were reading about, this horizontal multifamily. The houses are very small. and they've got a little bit of property around them, but not very much, right? So the whole footprint of the house and its yard is tiny. It's a couple thousand square feet or something, right?
But they don't have septics that they have to put underneath the footprint of them.
Yeah, so that's every time we talk about, well, let's cut the lot size down from 2 acres to 1 acre or half acre or whatever, we come back to it's still not going to work because you need a septic and a well.
Well.
This,
I
this,
mean,
the other, excuse me, let me intervene for 1 sec. The other thing, there would have to be some Board of Health waivers to you'd have to go to straight Title V, basically. You'd have to go to straight Title V for your offsets to property lines, but the town has already reduced some offsets on some of the septic stuff. We're 10 feet to the foundation as opposed to 25. That helps. But if you go by all the general state Title V guidelines, it loosens up. And the town also has 100 feet between systems. That would have to go. If it was a shared system, you would have all of your systems all next to each other in one huge spot, dumping all that nitrogen into one huge spot. This is spreading it out over the whole area, and it's 2 minute soil. It obviously it's going down, and it's spaced out, and the wells are on the outskirts. So the quality of the Board of Health is concerned is everything's safe for these people, everything's safe for the abutters. So there'd be concessions on the town as far as Board of Health regulations, which would be specifically for this overlay, those would enter the permit that they would be exempt from the Board of Health bylaws. I don't believe there's any exemption from conservation because we got one river in the back, and I think there's a little wet spot in the front, but other than that, all that stuff would be respected because you have enough room to respect that. But the homes are going to last. They're going to be energy efficient, and they're going to have a little bit more room between them. I mean, to jam them in so tight that they're no longer homes defeats the purpose of workforce housing. Because why does somebody want to live in that? If they're going to spend good money to get
we were
what
being
they
shown
want,
are very popular. So Mark, just approximately, when you compare what you spend for an average septic system in Berlin today, for a 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom house versus what you would spend for one on that property with the 2 minute perks and all the gravel, right? How much difference is there in the costs between those two?
Probably 75% less.
What is that in dollars? Like, just approximately, what's it?
All right, well, say depending on a certain septics in Berlin go for anywhere from, in the best soils, go from 20 grand to 70 grand. So I mean, 70 grand's obscene. You've got retaining walls, and but most of your septics go for $40,000 to $50,000, especially in bad soils. So in the sand that we're in, we're probably your biggest expenses are your tank and your pipe and your stone, and then your labor. So you're probably, I hate to say 7 grand, 10 grand a system.
So if you wanted to reduce,
cost 10 grand.
Huh?
You'd save 10 grand, or it would cost 10 grand?
Oh no, it would cost 10 grand. So you'd either save 60 grand, or you'd save 30 grand, or you save 20 grand.
Uh-huh.
Believe me, this is the only place I would.
You could. A lot of these developments I see, there's common space. There's, they'll have a circular road, and the center will all be grassy area, right? And presumably you could use that to put all your septics in that serve the houses.
You could create common areas, but then if somebody's got their septic in that area and it's deeded property, why wouldn't they rather have it in their yard?
because there's no room in their yard, because the things we were looking at, the yard was only about
Oh, I
20
realize
by
what you're
20
looking.
feet or 10 by 10 feet.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you
no, I
need,
realize
you
what
need to
you're looking.
have, yeah, I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong, Mark, but you were talking about like 20,000, 22,000 square foot house lots, that you put the septic in, the house on it, and meet all your setbacks and stuff like that. Is that what you were talking? Roughly?
Yeah. You meet your septic, you meet your setbacks, and your septic's in the ground, so it's not raised up. So your septic doesn't interfere with your yard.
Right,
And-
so they're just small, tiny, not tiny, but smaller lot sizes that look like a neighborhood from the, forties and fifties.
But
You
that's very
can
different
cluster them
than,
as much as you want. You can spread them out. You can cluster them. You can space them out. You can put open space. That's what I'm asking you guys.
Right. I'd prefer to
There's
see
enough
them
room.
spaced out if possible.
Yep.
If it, I think we were considering, like with the horizontal housing, that they would need to be that close.
Yeah,
If they don't need to be that close, I personally would prefer that they not be.
sure.
You
could alternate-
If
you could alter-
if they're gonna be the same amount of money.
well, I mean, they're not,
Correct.
because you got a certain amount of total space, and the cost, it matters a lot how many properties, how many houses do you build in that space. So the ones we were reading about were 1/10 of what you're talking about. They weren't 20,000 square foot lots. They were probably 2,000 or 3,000 square foot
Yeah,
lots.
but there was also 12 single-family houses per acre.
Right, and we're
That
not,
concept that you
Right.
shared with us.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
I mean,
That's
that's just.
why they're so cheap.
I wouldn't be
But-
interested in building anything of that nature.
and
Well-
if we could have something that wasn't that on that property, because I don't, if we could have 50 houses there instead of 300, I'd certainly prefer the 50.
You'd have a better chance of getting the overlay to pass too,
Yeah,
at 50 versus 300.
Well, how much space is there in that lot that's not under any kind of restriction, and it's not wet, and how
Very
many
little of it's
actually
wet.
Very little.
buildable land is there in that property?
majority of it, 90%.
So there was
Right.
29 acres, so you say 27 is usable and buildable.
Yep. It's all usable and buildable by the time you use up your well radiuses and stuff.
There you go.
Well, I still don't understand the answer on, is there an advantage to hooking up to the existing public water supply or not? I mean, I know you got to run a pipe and it's $100 a foot, but that doesn't tell me how does
It
the cost of
depends on
servicing all those
the-
houses with an existing well compared to the cost of drilling? What is it, 5 to 10 grand or something, even when you're doing a lot of them to put each well in, and the setbacks that now create a problem. So you have to have larger lots, so you can't put as many houses on them. So I think those are all working against you towards our goal.
Not really, because I could produce some statistics on the acreage that's required to fulfill those, even if you have 20,000 square foot lots, and that's the usable area, and you zigzag them, you cluster some over here, you cluster some over there, and you throw open space, you weave open space all around them, which is you create mounds and habitat and landscaping, and something that is going to become little neighborhoods all over the whole place. And your wells are tucked off in all these nooks. The cost of running 3/4 inch conduit and 1 inch pipe through sand to get to a well that's so many feet away, that you do, which you incur when you build that home. You could run well, if you have infrastructure, you could run well lines in advance and drill your wells as needed and put your septics in and build your homes as needed. That's huge compared to doing infrastructure up front and running essentially your water and sewer in all different directions. That's huge as far as phasing is concerned.
So target price on these units is what again?
I was shooting 500 from the hip, you know, I pulled up some comps on a whole bunch of other surrounding towns and stuff, and every time there's a house that's anywhere near in the 300s to the 500s, it goes out for 150 grand more, and they're not very nice, you know. These are things that are going to last the test of time, and I'm very proud of everything I've done, whether I get support on that or not. I am. And I don't like to save money to build something that looks like crap. I'll spend the money to set the house at the proper elevation. I've never had a house with a wet basement or a sump pump, because I respect the groundwater, and I respect the property that I'm building on, and I like everything I build to look like it was supposed to be there at the proper elevation. So right now that field is that pit is flat, other than there's a mound of what one would call topsoil. It's not very good quality in the middle. There's they filled up the back corner to conform with the 30-foot slope, and everything else is overgrown. So by the time you get to it, even though it's perfect soil, you're going to have to design a plan that flows with your roadways, and you're going to have some elevation that heads towards the back a little and heads towards those one-to-one slopes where the sand slopes off, and deal with the front. To just leave that with somebody as their yard is not right. That's not the way I build. That's, you know, I spend more money on making things look sick. I started with a landscaping background and land clearing background, developed into a builder and a developer, and I can look at a piece of land and see, you know, you can put that road in from here to there and it'll be great. And I just, if I do this, it's going to look nice, and that's just the way it's going to be, because it's going to look nice. You're going to be happy with it, and I need to make money. Those are the three things, and we need to achieve our goal of workplace housing, which is it's not affordable housing, it's obtainable housing. It's something that people can buy. And again, it's starter housing. It's not a mansion. It's not if somebody lives there forever, that's great. If it's a ranch, it complies with the Handicap Disability Act, so you get some points because you get some of those housing. And if somebody happens to be over 55 and over and can't afford to live in some of these other communities, and they're from town, it gives them a place where they can go. So it's a multiple tiered housing entity.
So in these models that you're talking about, one thing that we should probably keep in mind, and it's probably going to get shoved up your keister, is that the fire department's going to want to have these fully sprinkled. Is that something we can accommodate with those numbers you're throwing around, or do we need to goose it a little bit?
No, that sprinklers, I kind of know that's a fact of life these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though they're tiny, well, not tiny, smaller units, I'm sure that they're gonna want that as a part of.
Yeah, and the cost, the large part of your cost is the pump and the tanks and the hookup, you know, so the bigger you go after that, your cost per foot goes down, but it is what it is. It satisfies your public safety goal. You keep your roadways wide enough, and you dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Kind of like with the one meeting we had for Gibbs Road, when fire department asked if the pavement could be wider, and I said, yeah, we'll make it 5 feet wider. And they're like, what do you mean 5 feet wider? Why would you do that? I said, well, if I went for 2, you'd go for 3, you know? So it's like, come on, you know, let's just all get along and get this thing done, you know?
So if you had the connection to the existing public water supply, would you still need tanks and pumps in all of the houses for sprinklers?
I think so.
Yeah, they won't, you can't, well, there's no state code that no state code requires it. It's a local preference. If they're single family homes, there's no requirement at all. The only requirements, Berlin has a supplemental water bylaw, which requires a cistern or a sprinkler. So unless you waive that, that's would be in the overlay. So, I mean, I could figure the cost for a couple of cisterns versus sprinkling the whole place and do trade-offs on that. Because the sprinklers are strictly life-saving. I don't know what the nearest water supply is. There's probably hydrants, cisterns right at the apartments. That would be your closest thing to pull, or actually Hudson.
Across the street, drop it in the river.
Hudson's got hydrants.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. You get across the street, you got the hydrants in Hudson, so you could lay hose to satisfy that all day long. It just depends on who's driving the bus on the other end, as far as resistance.
They're gonna want it sprinkled.
I think that's the easiest answer.
And how do you put a tank in, how big is the tank you have to be in? Can you put it in a slab on grade house? Where you put
You'd
it?
end up doing, I've done it, but you'll end up having to have add on a mechanical room off the back or the side.
Hmm.
Heated room, unless you want to take away from the space that you're already giving them. It would be easy enough to shed a roof off the back. And I still haven't done all my numbers. It would be nice to have these things with basements, but I wouldn't want to, this is just preliminary. I wouldn't want to just throw it out there and then be said, oh, you said they'd have basements, so so what's that?
I don't think you're gonna get basement
The,
in this, not with the.
Basements could work, slab,
Hmm?
Why is
yeah.
that done?
yeah. I was figuring slab on grade to be honest.
Why is that done? Because of price or because
Yeah.
gravel? Okay.
It's price.
It's the everybody says how much do you save on why you doing slab? Why are you saving? You got half the concrete, half the labor, and you're not
You're gonna dig a
building
hole.
a whole first floor.
Exactly.
It's huge. It's huge.
Yep. And put heat pumps on the outside and be done with it.
Yep.
Split units everywhere.
Yep. That's the way it's gonna go. That's the way it's headed.
Super insulate them and call it a nightmare.
Yep. Yeah. Me, I like propane. That's my favorite. That's a bad thing to say in Berlin, but the we run over a propane tank at my house and had the fire department there for 2 days. But the propane is efficient. It's cost effective, and I don't understand why they don't consider it clean. But that's just my view.
The way the state's going, you won't have any propane left. No gas.
Yeah.
Electric. everything.
What do they call it? The judgment's out on firewood too, if that's green or not. That's renewable, but they can't make up their mind because it burns. Not that we're gonna bring back the wood stoves for these, but
Yeah, we're not gonna heat these with wood stoves. Just putting that out there now. Save you some math.
yeah.
It might be interesting too, if you some of the ones that are in the back where the topography's allows it, that you might get a garage under as a selling feature for some of these. Might be interesting.
With some of the added topography to force this thing to look more natural, there could be some slighted that would accommodate that. Yeah, but even you could push them into the hill and fill the front, and yeah,
Garage under.
yeah, yep.
How do
Well-
we as a planning board, if we say we have a target of 500,000 as a sale price for a project like this? How do we make sure that happens? Because it doesn't seem like it ever happens. What is it that we can
You're not
do?
gonna be able to put I don't think, from a planning board standpoint, you know, you can play with the overlay and you can play with the language of the zoning, but you're not gonna be able to dictate the price point of these things.
'Cause
I don't
if
think.
if that's true, then we need to fully understand what all the costs are and make sure that whatever we do have control over is likely to meet the cost.
You
goal.
could probably you could probably dictate the square footage range. You could probably dictate the material palette of the outside of it.
Can
You know,
you,
beyond
can you
that, you're gonna have,
dictate slab versus basement?
You could mandate sorry to interrupt, you could mandate a entry level price, which would have a spec. If somebody different from that spec and bought upgrades, then that's their choice. But I could probably come up with a calculation.
Like a formula,
to
like,
Yeah, similar to mass housing, to the affordable, for the median income, the interest rate, and tie it to that. Now, the only wild card is the cost of inflation and the cost of construction, so there'd have to be a relief for that, that if it couldn't be possible, if it actually couldn't be obtained because of that. So that you'd have the median income, I guess, and then median income, cost of living, and interest rate and cost of construction. I could probably talk to my 40B consultant to see if she could get me some information on that, and then try to come up with a formula for a entry level unit that would help ease the board's mind that this could be obtained and be
could we do
sustained
it
and
that X amount of units have to be within a certain range and then, you know, and do it in tiers?
if we don't, as long as there's no affordable component, we could do a percentage that are built at that frozen number. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
right, because right, it could be, 25% are 1,000 square feet. 25% are no more than 1,300 square feet.
Yep.
25% no more than 1,500 square feet, and kind of stay so that you've got a little. So again, the biggest thing, my two biggest pet peeves about these neighborhood developments are when they're all jammed into each other and they're all exact cookie cutter.
Yeah.
So if you had a range between 1,000 and 1,800 square feet, or 1,000 and 1,600 square feet, and a certain percentage of different categories, that gives a little bit it gives a mix to the area as well.
Yeah, I have no problem with diversity. The last one I did, I was tied permit wise. I was tied to build what I built. I couldn't alter. I couldn't change anything. But diversity, I think, is good as far as people want different things. But I think the main goal is to provide X amount of workforce housing for the town, to come up with an overlay that works, and then in order to make sure that X amount of numbers stay within that parameter, that there's some flexibility for the people that want to do a little bit more, and so that eases the burden on the developer, which is myself, to make it so it gives me the flexibility on the other end. But I also like I said, I like the fact of spreading things out as opposed to forcing everything in and surrounding it, because if you surround it, there's really nothing to surround it, because there's no woods, there's nothing there. So that you're not saving anything by doing that. So if you take that into consideration, and it's laid out in a nice pattern, and we got some berms between areas and berms between houses, and some longer driveways and some shorter driveways, and some different style homes, and some a little bigger than the others, not by much, but some a little bigger than the others. I think it could really look like something that myself and you guys would be proud of, leading the state to a bylaw and an overlay that works for everybody.
Can we or can we not control the sale price of these houses once they're built?
The initial or the second tier? The resale?
Well, I assume just the initial. Yeah, because then
I think resale would be against the law.
Right,
I guess we'd want to control, either control or kind of lay the path for both, right?
I think they would have to be deed restricted. That no more than, because you don't want somebody buying 1,000 square foot house. And then, putting a second floor on, which doubles the size of the house. Or buying a 1,500 square foot house and putting a second floor on, and now it's a 3,000 square foot house. And it's selling for, I think there are ways to deed restrict it so that, you can't do additions up to a certain, maybe like no more than 10% if someone wants, excluding porches or screen houses or something. And, you don't want someone coming in, buying an affordable house and turning it into an unaffordable house.
You can't do that, yeah. You don't want additions, as far as you don't want second floor expansions. You want to deed restrict it, like you said, to 10% or something within reason. If somebody wants to put a bay window on or a screen porch, or that stuff's normal, or maybe even a carport or something, but you don't want people adding they won't be able to we'd have to set offsets, design it with the offsets where the structure is, and don't allow anything said beyond that. So that controls your horizontal, and maybe nothing more than a shed roof on the second floor, or a dormer or something. But put some modest expansion, but not gross expansion for abuse.
Exactly. Yep.
And that could be deed restricted without very much trouble at all.
Right, because they are so it's not like a 40B where it's always deed restricted at a specific price. But
Right.
these will appreciate, they will be investments for the people who buy them, but only within certain limits.
Correct. Only what the market will bear, and entry level, because even when the dollar's worth a quarter instead of a dollar, they go up exponentially with whatever the inflation is, and God, hopefully inflation stops. But appreciating value since time began, and it's got, so as these starter homes are built, let's hope they remain starter homes for eternity. And that's where the 2-bedroom deed restriction makes it so people outgrow them. And then it's renewable, because some people outgrow them, some people won't. And it's housing stock, which I think seen as well received by you guys as what the town needs and what the state is looking for. Even though we're not a T town or anything like that, it's Berlin's responsible effort to do what needs to be done for starter homes, other than affordables.
I like the concept.
Thank you.
I wrote to Emily and asked her what the status was of that effort that the commission's putting toward workforce housing overlay zoning. So when I get something back from her, I'll share that with everybody.
If you could CC me on that, that would be great. If you could, I could always search her out and talk to her.
No, I mean, I would think we'd try to drag her into a meeting sometime in the future and get you and maybe some other folks too, you know.
Sure.
The
Is this
housing
gonna be
trust.
on Zoom forever? You're
Yep,
gonna be on
forever.
Zoom forever, or is it? Okay, all
Forever.
right.
As long as we're allowed.
We're not
All
the
right.
damn Conservation Commission, we're the planning board, right? Yeah.
All right.
We just sit around and have ideas.
How many you guys got pants on?
I'm not even gonna ask you.
There you go. No, I put them on out of respect, you know.
Well, this is helpful. This is good.
So why don't we, we'll do some homework and have, Tim reach out, and then maybe we can reconvene this for the next meeting.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks. Cause
In
I'd
the
like to keep it,
meantime, if you guys come up. Oops, I'm sorry. In the meantime, if you come up with any wish lists or any emails that you want to forward to myself that I could start to prepare for to get ready for the next discussion, that'd be great too. Or either that, or we could just you could do some more homework, I could do some more research, and then we could have a discussion and just let it evolve as it evolves.
well, I think one of the things that we should, run to ground, Mark, is whether it's better for a public water supply or is, utilizing what we have available, maybe available to us in that one that's existing, or whether it's wells on the outside, which one's more cost effective, which one would you rather do?
Okay,
I think
Okay.
we like the idea of the septic systems being on the individual lots, the lots being a little bit more
Okay.
like a lot. And creating a neighborhood and just seeing if we could play with that concept a little bit, flesh out whether 44 is the sweet spot or whether it has to go to 46, 50, or, someplace in between, whatever. Because we're gonna need to know what that limit's gonna be or what that number is gonna be, because we're gonna have to sell this to, to get the overlay to pass. So, if 44
Yeah.
doesn't do it for us and it's 50, okay, we can work with that. If it's 150, that's gonna be hard, and I don't think it'll happen.
no, we can't support the nitrogen loading at 150.
Exactly. So if we could do, if you could do a few of your calculations on that and figure out what you need to make it viable, because it's obvious it's gotta
Yeah.
work for you and work for us. And
Sure,
then anything else anybody wants to do, we'll work on the zoning part of it.
Right, if you could just kind of, draw roughly the lot shape and kind of, and this would be very preliminary, but just kind of some ideas of how you would cluster and spread the houses. Just to
Sure,
kind of get
sure.
a visual.
I can do that.
That would be
I can do
helpful.
that. I think this
You
is
have
enough.
input. Say that again, Mark.
Go ahead.
Your
I said
internet is getting worse as
I'm getting enough input to at least. Oh, mine is?
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think.
Yeah. Mark, try shutting off your video. See if that helps.
concept that I can present next time.
We got very little of that.
Sorry. Is it our internet crappy?
Your audio is much better now.
Yep.
So, yeah, and if you could do one more thing is if you could
I said I
have
was
like you know, just a brief elevation of what one of these things might look like.
All right. I'll
Doesn't
come up
have to
with,
be elaborate, just something that, okay, this is what we're doing, you know, is it squat, or is it got a, you know, a higher pitched roof, or, you know, is it
Sure.
flat roof, or, you know, just something like that, so we can get an idea. Is this the
I'll see if I
California
can-
bungalow, or is this something that belongs in New England?
oh, I don't belong in New England.
Okay.
Think shingle vinyl siding, just saying.
That's what they got.
So can we, Jay, can we put Mark on for 8 o'clock next time, or do we have a commitment?
We have these sign people coming.
Okay, excellent. So are they coming at 8?
I don't know, I haven't set the schedule yet.
Mhm.
So we don't know when we can have Mark.
Are we talking about, I think we're doing something different than what I expected. I thought we were gonna talk about creating a new zone and whatever else we need to do in order to get our goal of workforce housing. But now we're talking about a specific project for a specific proponent, you know, in a specific site. Are we doing what we were setting out to do, or are we kind
So
of
is
getting
it-
way
is
ahead of
the-
ourselves?
Is the goal to have zoning that can be workforce housing applied to anywhere in the town? Or is the goal
think
to
that's-
get workforce housing?
Well, no, I think we can establish zones for it, but you know, like we talked about the other week about spot zoning. I mean, we're supposed to come up with, I mean, I feel like we need to come up with a framework for a project that can be done and will result in housing, because it doesn't seem like we can control the sale price. And if you
Correct.
look at what happened on Highland Ridge, I think the prices are like double what we expected, right? We got no control over that. So, but we got to figure out what we can control. Things like
So
the
What-
size, like
yeah.
Calvin was talking about. We could have some size restrictions, and maybe can we decide whether it's slab or basement? Can we decide how the septics go, or whatever? What are the things that we do have control over that we can dictate, so that when it's all done, we're likely to have it turn out at the price that we want, not double.
right. So one of the
Yeah.
things I'm gonna push back, one of the things I'm gonna push back on you is that in order to make the project viable, you need the right conditions. You need a easily developable parcel of land, something that's got a lot of gravel in it, and something that the, you know, infrastructure costs aren't gonna be prohibitive to get it to work. This project wouldn't work on something up on a lot on Ball Hill, for instance, or someplace where there's a lot more rock. Because there's
If
just
we, but if
wouldn't be-
we, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking if we set that framework, people wouldn't even bother proposing a project at a place where it couldn't be done, right?
unless there's, you know, if further down the line, something makes it more palatable to do, like a package plant or something like that, where you can put in a infrastructure at a more reasonable cost. I mean,
That'd be good, right?
5 years ago, you wouldn't have talked about a package plant because it would have been, you know, $25 million, and the Sennies did one for $2 million or whatever their number was. That made that, you know, certain aspects of that project go. So I think as things get evolve and new technology comes on the line, things become more, you know, you can put stuff where you never thought you'd put stuff before.
Mhm. Yeah, and I do think as we look at some of these things, we ought to think about could this apply in a situation where somebody had a 9-acre lot and wanted to do an alternate a development to you know, to an A&R. Not just like, and you know, that maybe would involve just one or two. So I think that as we put things together, we need to continually sort of step back and say, is this really, designed for a particular spot, or are we doing things that could be applied under other circumstances? And I think we need to be sure that we try to be as inclusive as possible, because I think Tom's last point is a good one. There's technology that could arise that would make subdivision of an existing lot perhaps something that would work.
That
Yeah.
actually reminds me, Mark, I was gonna ask you earlier, would putting in Presby septic systems as opposed to traditional septics dramatically change the cost, and what would be the result of something like that if that were a condition?
Presby's will increase the cost of the systems, but if you were to go to the fast systems, which are less nitrogen reduction, you could increase your nitrogen loading to obtain a higher number of units to get more housing in there. If it was to get to a number a little more than the 44 that I was saying, and a hell of a lot less than 150, there's a trade-off. Once you go to those systems, it adds about, right now it adds $8,000 a unit. Well, yeah, it's $8,000 a unit for the fast system. So that's doubling the cost of the system. But if you add X amount of units exponentially, which gets more workforce housing, and the town's okay with that, then you're getting a cleaner result in the area. So it's a trade-off. But the Presbys don't, the only thing the Presbys do is they make the footprint smaller, and also they're better on a slope. But wouldn't be a benefit. The fast systems, as far as an alternate technology, would increase the amount of units and decrease the nitrogen loading.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. Next time I'm gonna plug my iPad into a charger. Apparently I'm eating up a lot of battery that I didn't know about,
Yep.
Anything else we want to chat about on this? Or we pretty much exhausted ourselves?
I think this is a good start.
Yep, helpful.
Thanks, Mark.
And I do think it's a good use of that site. I mean, kind of to what Jay was saying, I don't know that we set out to create an overlay district for this site, but this site has come before us so many different times with so many different projects. And if we can develop an overlay that accomplishes our workforce housing goals and and get something done with this site that is productive for the town, I think that's a win-win.
Sounds good.
So next meeting,
We don't have a time. I would like to have Mark come back, but we just don't have a set time yet. We'll figure that out.
Yeah, I try not to set the times until we get closer because things come up. So maybe in the week before the meeting, we can nail down the times. See who's available and who isn't, and all that. That's okay.
Right.
Sounds
So
good to
it'll
me.
definitely be next meeting. We just don't have a time for you, Mark.
That's great. That's great. Enjoyed talking with all of you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.
Take care.
Night.
That's everything on the agenda. Is there anything else for timely items? Anybody would like to talk about?
No, just it's good to be back, and I will be participating again. Apologies for I had a health emergency that kept me out of combat for a few weeks. So
It's
Yeah,
good-
good.
It's good
So
to see
good to
you
see
back.
you. Yeah.
yep, still on the mend, but largely back. Yeah.
Good.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I'm happy to
Uh,
move to adjourn if you want a motion.
I'm happy to second it.
Okay, it doesn't require any discussion, so I'll ask you to vote. Carolyn McDonald,
Aye.
Timothy Wheeler,
Aye.
Thomas Andrew,
Aye.
Jay Teach,
Aye.
He says, Mary.
Tom Sanford, aye. Motion
All
carried
right.
unanimous. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.